Okay, hi, my name is Alexis Carlin, and today I'm going to be introducing the ETF program. So first, I will get to go first, and I will talk about the ETF awards, and then Elena is going to talk about the teacher training programs as a TEFL advisor and an EMI advisor, and then we will go into Q&A if you have any questions. So here is the outline for what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to briefly introduce the ETF program, but you've heard a lot about it from Dr. Nadeau already. Then I will share a little bit about my experiences as an ETA and an ETF and why I decided to participate in the ETF program. And then I will wrap it up with talking about the benefits of the program, the responsibilities of the ETF, and how you can apply. So the ETF program is funded by Taiwan's Ministry of Education, and it is to support English teachers in Taiwan. It was created to help ETAs extend their year in Taiwan. So if they served as an English teaching assistant and they felt that their time in Taiwan wasn't yet complete and they wanted to stay another year, they could renew their grant. But this program is also open to anyone with prior teaching experience and people who want to learn more about Taiwan and come teach English in different educational settings. So for me, I was placed in Taipei, Taiwan in 2022 as an ETA. I worked at Wenchang Elementary School, which is in Zhishan Station at the north part of the Red Line, and I taught grades 1 through 6. I taught CLEAL classes, which are content language integrated learning classes. This means that my content classes like math, science, and art were taught in English. And I got to work with local English teachers to teach art, math games, life skills, reading for thinking, and design thinking. Outside of the classroom, I was also really involved in my school's community. So I piloted a monthly English challenge to get students to chat with me in English during their break time. I taught cardio dance and Zumba to my LETs after school hours. I also ran monthly assemblies and I joined the student rollerblading club so that I could get to interact with my students more outside of the classroom. As part of the Fulbright program and the ETF program, we're also cultural ambassadors. So we get the opportunity to share our culture. And something that I love from my American culture is Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. So for my year as an ETA, I surprised my students by dressing up as a student in the school uniform. And I snuck around the school and pretended to be a student the whole day. And that was my costume. And when I returned as an ETF, I actually dressed up as a lunch lady and I brought them candy during their lunchtime. I also helped introduce different cultures around the world. So my school had a spring festival every year, and originally it was an Easter egg hunt, and I wanted to expand my students' worldview. So what I did is I designed a 6-year curriculum about spring festivals around the world, and each year the students would learn about a new country. So the pictures that you can see here, the top two are a water gun fight that my sixth graders got to do to celebrate Songkran in Thailand. And then the picture to the right is an experiment with food coloring milk and dish soap. So the students made rangolis to celebrate Holi in India. And then, of course, we wrap it up with the Easter egg hunt. And the last thing that I did in my ETA year is I got to study Mandarin. So I was studying Mandarin Chinese when I was in university, and I really wanted to continue studying it. When I studied it in university, I learned Pinyin Chinese. So when I came here, it was really difficult for me to read the characters, and I wanted to learn more about the Taiwanese writing system. So I got to enroll in a first grade Chinese class, and I learned how to write Bopema or Zhuyin, and so it was very fun to live the life as a student and really become integrated in the classroom. And I also had to take tests and write the homework, which was very hard, but it helped me appreciate all the work my students do outside of the classroom. And from there, I became even more integrated. I got to participate in the school's sports day performance and do the exercise dance. And then I went on a school field trip with my first graders to the Taipei Children's Amusement Park. So, after all of these experiences in my first year, I didn't feel like my time in Taiwan was done. I felt like I needed to extend it for another year, and the ETF program was the perfect opportunity for me to do so. And there are several really big reasons that brought me back. So, as I mentioned before, one of the courses that I taught when I was in ETA is a course called Design Thinking. It's for grades 5 and 6, and the goal is to teach students about SDGs. And this was my favorite course because got to talk about issues of globalization and sustainability at an elementary level through English storybooks. And I had so much fun teaching it. But because it was a grade 5 and grade 6 class, it was a 2 year curriculum. So, as an ETA, I only got to finish the first year, and I felt that if I left, I would be leaving the curriculum incomplete. So I wanted to come back a second year and finish the curriculum, which I got to do as an ETF. And together, me and my LETs made 10 units that cover all 17 SDGs. I also came back to Taiwan because I wanted to continue learning more about the culture. I loved experiencing Pride during October. It was so much fun to learn about LGBT rights and the LGBT community here. I wanted to continue my community service project. So, in the spring, I bring ETAs and ETFs to the Dharma Drum Institute of Liberal Arts, and we get to clean the campus and you get to interact with local Taiwanese people. So, I think it's a really awesome way to become integrated in the community. And I wanted to learn more about Taiwanese culture related to the holidays and the food. And in the bottom right picture, you can see one of my students. He is actually the star of a new Taiwanese movie that just came out. It's called Doubles Match or Ping Pong Nan Hai. So he is the main character. So it was very awesome to see all the things my students continue to do after they graduate and the impacts they have on Taiwan. And then the last reason I decided to return is because during my ETA year, I met so many people from all different parts of the world across the United States. I met a ton of local Taiwanese people, and I even got to interact with other foreign teachers. So, what I really wanted to do is come back and continue to strengthen the community connections I made in Taiwan with locals, but also get the chance to meet more educators, more ETAs, ETFs, and advisors from all across the world. Okay, so that is my experience. That's what brought me back. And now I'm going to talk more about the benefits of the program and the responsibilities and how you can apply. So, the ETF program is the same as the ETA program for the duration. The grant is 11 months and your start date is August 1st, and it goes all the way into the following year, June 30th. Your stipend for this program is 53,000 NTD per month. And if you get selected for ETF Plus, which means that you have a teaching certificate, you will get 63,000 NTD. The benefits of the program are the same as the Fulbright Taiwan program, in which you get a round trip airfare from the US to Taiwan, and then at the end of the grant year, Taiwan back to the US. You will also get a settling allowance of 26,000 when you land, so that way you can get all the things that you need to prepare for the year. You are eligible for the national health insurance in Taiwan, and you get 1 month of free housing in August. And if you are a returning ETF who was an ETA the year before, you may also have the opportunity to find your own housing if you wish. In the ETF program, FSE also supports professional development. So you are eligible for discounted tuition if you are interested in pursuing a master's in TESOL with Azusa Pacific University, and they can share more information with you during the Q&A if you are curious about the master's program. As an ETF, you are expected to co-teach or solo teach with Taiwanese teachers in elementary schools, middle schools, or universities. One of the things that I thought was very interesting about the ETF program is the opportunity to solo teach. So as an ETA, you co-teach with local Taiwanese teachers, but when I returned for my second year, I had more experience. My LETs knew me very well, and I got a lot more freedom and independence in the classroom to design more lessons, run the classroom, and be more of a solo teacher. So I thought that opportunity to be more independent was a huge draw for the program when I reapplied. Your responsibilities and expectations are similar to the ETA program as well. You will have your summer training in August. If you are returning and you are an ETF, then you will get a specialized training with other ETFs because you've already been in Taiwan for a year and you're more familiar with the teaching context. So, our awesome TEFL advisors and EMI advisors will tailor the training for you to encourage more professional development instead of more introductions to Taiwan. You will also participate in workshops throughout the semester. You will only have to attend 3 if you are returning, but if you're a first year ETF and you haven't been in Taiwan before, you will attend all of the workshops. Similarly, with the reports, you only need to write 3 reports if you're an ETF who's returning, but if you're a first year ETF, you will do all the reports. And then finally, you will have teaching observations. So your TEFL advisor will visit your school and observe one of your classes. This is to encourage you and help you feel more confident in your teaching and give you feedback on how you can improve. And for ETFs, you only need to do one observation for the year. You are also invited to participate in English and bilingual teaching forums. For example, one of them being our mid-year conference in January, where you may get to demo a lesson or present. You can be invited to serve in remote service camps. So the goal of these is to bring ETFs to rural areas that don't have access to English education the same way our other sites do, and ETFs can be leaders of these camps. Fulbright also hosts cultural events that you'll get to participate in, and you will also be expected to complete 8 hours of community service. This requirement stays the same between ETAs and ETFs because the goal is to integrate you into the Taiwanese community. So it's a very awesome opportunity to learn more about local life here and really help out in different ways outside of your school. This is the chain of command for Foundation for Scholarly Exchange, and these are all the people who are working to support you. The staff there is awesome, and we have a bunch of local coordinators at each site who are here to help you. They are fantastic. I can tell you from my experience, every coordinator I've had has been super awesome, super helpful. And if you have any other struggles, you can reach out to the team, and they're always willing to help. We have lots of different sites in Taiwan for the ETF program, so you can select and rate your preferences about what site is best for you. If you're really interested in city life, Taipei and Kaohsiung might be the best fit. If you're interested in learning more about indigenous communities or living in an idyllic scenic area, Hualien or Taidong could be a good fit. Or if you're really interested in the island life, maybe you will be interested in Penghu or Jinmen. So if you are an ETA and you want to extend your years in ETF, you can decide if you'd like to stay at your site or if you want to try something new and go to a new site. Here we have a QR code, so you can go ahead and scan that. That will take you to a website that outlines the different highlights of each site. So you can think about which one is best for you. What are you hoping to learn about in Taiwan? So I really encourage you to do your research and think about which site would be a good fit. But at the end of the day, every site in Taiwan is amazing. As an ETF, I've gotten the chance to travel, and each one is a unique experience. So anywhere you will be placed will be life-changing for sure. Okay, so how do you apply? Well, first, let's check if you're qualified for the ETF program. So, the ETFs must be US citizens because you'll have to submit your passport when you apply. And then you also need to have some teaching experience. So, we have a bullet pointed list that you can look at below. You only need to meet one of the following. So, if you are an ETA, you are qualified and the ETF can be your extension. If you are currently teaching in Taiwan, through other programs outside of FSC, then you are qualified. If you have at least 1 year of English teaching experience, this be classroom experience or tutoring experience, you can elaborate on that. Or if you have a master's degree in TEFL or any teaching related majors, or affiliated universities with FSC. If you are interested in ETF Plus, you need to submit your teaching certificate, and you can find more information about that on the website. So here is our, go ahead. Here is our chart that kind of outlines the differences between being a first year ETF, which means you were not an ETA before, and a senior ETF, which means you were an ETA before and you're returning, or an EMI ETF. And EMI ETF means English as a Medium of Instruction English Teaching Fellow. And that means that you're placed at university sites. So there are some differences. One of them is the students that you interact with. So first year and senior ETFs can work with K through 9 students. EMI ETFs are placed in universities. There are currently 4 sites for the EMI ETFs. It's Taipei, Taoyuan, Tainan, and Kaohsiung. For the class schedule, the ETFs who are first years and seniors will follow the schedule set by your school for the classrooms that you're teaching, whether it be co-teaching or solo teaching. And for EMI ETFs, your schedule is constantly changing because you will do workshops, you will also do one-on-one consultations, you may co-teach with a professor. So that will depend on what's scheduled for each week. So you're going to want to have a calendar to outline everything to keep track of what you're doing. In terms of co-teaching, the first year ETFs and the senior ETFs will have the opportunities to work with LETs. And then the EMI ETFs, you will not work with a local teacher. You have a lot more independence to work with students, and you kind of get to run the classroom and design your own activities for the workshops, but you will get to collaborate with other EMI ETFs in your office. And that's a great way to bounce ideas off of each other and develop professionally. In terms of teaching content, you will teach textbook English, CLEAL, or cultural classes for first year ETFs or senior ETFs. And then for EMI ETFs, you're designing your own content. So you're picking what the workshops are and you're designing it from beginning to end. Or when you meet in your consultation, your students are going to tell you what they're interested in, and you find the content to help support their English learning process. In terms of community service, as I mentioned before, first year ETFs and senior ETFs all have the 8 hours. It's to help you integrate into the community. And the EMI ETFs are in charge of an English camp. So they host an English camp in the summer, and it's 3 days, and then one in the winter, which is also 3 days. And the goal is to help students in college develop their professional English and explore opportunities in Taiwan and around the world and how they can use English as a tool to reach their professional goals. That being said, even as an EMI ETF, you can still participate in other community service projects or remote service camps if you want to continue to be integrated in the community. I know for me, even though I do the English camps, I also continue to run my service project at the Dharma Drum Institute of Liberal Arts because I really value those connections that I got to make as an ETA and ETF, and I want to continue that relationship. And then finally, the written reports. So if you're a first year ETF, you'll write 3 to 6. Senior ETF, you have the reduced number at 3. Same for EMI ETF, reduced number at 3 reports. Okay, so if all of this sounds awesome to you and you're really interested in participating in the program, now it's time to apply. So here are the things that you need to apply for the ETF program. The first is a statement of purpose, and this is 1 to 2 pages where you're going to outline why you're interested in applying for this grant, some of your teaching experience, and what you can bring to the program. So you want to talk about what teaching experience you have and how it directly relates, and what are your goals in Taiwan. What specifically are you going to teach? What teaching techniques are you going to use? And in what ways are you hoping to grow? The second thing you'll want to include is an English CV with your most current updated information and your teaching experience. And third is recommendation letters. So this can be from your most recent employer or your supervisor. If you are an ETA right now, your recommendation letter should come from your school or an LET that you work with. You cannot ask your local coordinator for a recommendation letter. Then you'll need to submit a copy of your US passport because one of the eligibility requirements for this program is to be a US citizen. And if you are interested in ETF Plus, then you'll want to submit your issued teaching license or your teacher certificates. If you have any questions about the eligibility requirements or the application process, you can check all of this information out on the Fulbright website. And if you would like to talk to me more about my experiences in Taiwan, you can email me at alexiscarlin.1@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and scan that QR code and add me online. Just do me a favor and introduce yourself. You can say, "Hi, my name is so and so, and I saw you at the informational session," so that I know who you are and what you're interested in talking about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alexis. Before we move on to next section, I think our program director, Miss Kelly Zhang, is with us right now. Let's welcome Kelly Zhang to give us some remarks. Kelly?
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Alexis. That was a very comprehensive introduction. For those of you who just joined us a few minutes ago, I'd like to welcome you for this precious opportunity to have a glance of our program. And ETF program is the similar program with ETA Fulbright scholarship. The only difference is that ETF program is a foundation scholarship, but the stipend and all the supports are the same. And we are very proud to have a lot of applications every year, especially this year. We hit the highest of almost 700 applications who are applying for the ETA, English Teaching Assistant program through the State Department system. So we are welcome to invite more of our second year ETA and also our first year ETF to join us for this program. And I only want to make one modification for the things that Alexis mentioned, which is the qualification to apply for the ETF. If you are not from the affiliated university, you are also welcome to apply for this scholarship because we have a rigid community a selection committee, and they will do the selection. So you are also welcome to apply. And I really appreciate your time, and I hope you will enjoy the informative session today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. So let's move on to our teacher trainer part. Elena will be our representative to share her experience in Taiwan.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Elena, and I am a third-year advisor in this program. And I'm happy to introduce more to you about our two different teacher trainer awards. I'm an advisor in Kaohsiung, and like I mentioned, this is my third year. So I'm really excited to talk about this program, how it's benefited me, and how it might be a great experience for you too. So let's move on. This is what I will be talking about for the next 15 minutes. I'll talk about the benefits of this program. I'll introduce what the roles will look like, the eligibility of the position, what the position entails, and then finally how to apply. So first, let's talk about the benefits. You're probably already converting this amount to US dollars, but what I will say about this stipend is that it is quite a comfortable stipend here in Taiwan. But in addition to the stipend, there are other benefits as well, similar to what Alexis introduced. You do have round-trip airfare between Taiwan and the US. Also, you do have a settling in allowance. This amount you might not be familiar with, but it does help you when you first arrive to Taiwan. It's kind of the equivalent of maybe 2 or 3 months of rent, depending on where you're placed. So I think having that is very convenient, and it's a good kind of way to help you transition into Taiwan. You get access to health insurance. I recently got my teeth cleaned for $3. So if that's not inviting enough, yeah, I think that's a really great benefit of being in Taiwan and being here with the program. As an advisor, you do have opportunities to travel around the island. This could be through having classroom observations with the grantees that you're assigned. But in addition to those travels, you do get compensated or reimbursed for those travels. So in 2 years, I was able to travel to almost every county in Taiwan. And that was made possible through being in this role. But I think more than just traveling for tourism, being able to visit remote rural schools was a really great insight into what education is like here. And it really broadened my perspective of what education could look like. And I was talking with another Taiwanese colleague who also said something similar. Even though she is Taiwanese, she just through this position, got access to a very unique perspective of Taiwan to be able to enter into some of these classrooms that most people won't be able to do. So I think that's a very special perspective that this role could bring. All right, so I want to introduce the first grant. There's two different grants. The first grant I'll talk about is our TEFL advisor, so Teaching English as a Foreign Language Advisor. And so everything that Alexis mentioned to you about the ETA and the ETF program, you are on the other side of that. And so you will be the advisor who will be reading the reports, will be assigned grantees to help aid them in their teaching journey. You'll be conducting their classroom observations, their consultations. So you will be that academic advisor for ETAs, ETFs, and also their local English teachers. So you'll see this acronym LET. It means the English teacher that they're co-teaching with in the public schools. And our grantees work with students in elementary up until junior high. This grant is also an 11-month grant. So it starts in August 1st, it ends in June 30th. And let me talk about the eligibility for the position. So you do need to have a master's degree with TEFL teaching experience. But what's different about this position is you could be a citizen from Taiwan or the USA. You don't have to only be a US resident, but we do collaborate with Taiwanese schools, Taiwanese teachers. So we really value the experiences that our Taiwanese English teachers, our teachers bring to this program. And also, you need to be currently teaching or conducting research in TEFL in any country, Taiwan included. And finally, to be a proficient user of English. All right, so you may have a PhD. You are still eligible for this position as well. You need to be a Taiwanese or a US citizen, but you also need to have some relevant field of English teaching experiences. We ask for more than 2 years of English teaching experience. And in addition to that, to have held the rank of assistant professor for at least 2 years at a university in Taiwan or another English-speaking country. Now I will talk about the different roles that you will have as a TEFL advisor. So similar to what Alexis had mentioned, you will be the person conducting the orientation training for our ETAs and ETFs. In the summer, we have an extensive summer training program. For many of our ETAs, they come with maybe no teaching experience or very little teaching experience. So our role as advisors is to provide that kind of foundational training to equip our ETAs and ETFs to teach in the classroom. And so we do that in the summer through conducting various workshops in person. Even for us as advisors, we will be having some orientation training to get us more familiar with the Taiwanese context, meet your coworkers. So that happens in August, but the training doesn't end in August. It continues throughout the semester. So as an advisor, you will be hosting different workshops in different parts of Taiwan. You have about 8 workshops that you do a semester, and the topics range from classroom management, differentiation, co-teaching, and also topics that you want to kind of bring based on your own expertise. There's a workshop that I enjoy doing on how to teach picture books using English. And so that's, yeah, just one of the different ways you could help with professional development for our teachers here. There's also the option to help support remote camps. I was able to be a part of this too in other years, and I really enjoyed just being able to bring our grantees to regions that don't, have maybe access to English speakers or maybe less resource. So that's another thing that you could be a part of. There is a mid-year conference that happens every January where you can see a lot of best practices that our ETAs and ETFs share. And next slide. Some other things that fall under the role, you do have between 14 to 16 ETAs or ETFs that you oversee around Taiwan. Like I mentioned, you will be reading their reflective reports and providing feedback. You will be able to enter their classrooms and observe a class session. And connected to that class session is some sort of debrief, a consultation together with that grantee and their co-teacher, where you really just expand on the things that you saw. In my experience, I feel like I'm sharing a lot of positive things with the ETA or ETF and their co-teachers, because observations are not easy to do. It's not easy to be watched. And it's really a joy to see the creative ways that both the ETA, the ETF, and the co-teachers work together to make English engaging, interesting, authentic for students as they're learning. Okay, so that was the TEFL advisor role. I want to talk to you about our other grant called the EMI advisor. This is very similar to the TEFL advisor. So first, I think I need to explain what EMI is. Alexis explained the acronym to you, but I'll explain a little bit more in the context of the role. So EMI stands for English as a Medium of Instruction. It's a really big thing happening here in Taiwan. Maybe you've heard of the bilingual 2030 policy that was started in 2018. But as a result of that policy, there's been a lot of resources, a big push into bilingual education from the elementary school level all the way until university. And so for this EMI advisor role, you are an advisor for our ETAs, ETFs at the K through 9 level, but you're also supporting higher education where professors are now asked to teach content in English. So for example, you might meet professors in the STEM field who are teaching mechanical engineering, who were teaching it in Chinese, but are now encouraged to teach it in English. And so your role as an advisor is to also maybe aid in that transition, aiding professors in the tools that they may need or the struggles that they face as they're using English as a second or third language to teach, and also for students who are learning in this additional language. So that's the overview. Let me share more of the details with you. So for this grant, you have the option of it being a 6 or 11-month grant. The reason for this is because we know if you're a faculty member, it may be difficult to get leave for a whole year. And so you have the option of joining for a semester, that being the fall semester or the spring semester. So regarding eligibility, you do need to have a master's degree or any EMI or international student teaching experience. Similar to our other award, not similar to the other award, you do need to be a citizen of the US for this award. You need to also be proficient in English and be teaching or conducting research in EMI or international student programs. And if you have a PhD, you do need to have EMI or international student experience. You need to also be a US citizen and be in the field for at least 2 years, and also be an assistant professor or higher for at least 2 years in a university. Okay, now the roles of the EMI advisor. So this slide looks quite familiar. It is similar to the TEFL Advisor grant. The difference here is you have a reduced amount of workshops that you do. So for TEFL advisors, you do 8 workshops around Taiwan, but for the EMI position, you will have 4 workshops that you do, because the other part of your role is to also be supporting at the university level. So you'll be doing workshops for ETAs, so in elementary and junior high, and also workshops for professors on a myriad of topics that you can choose. But you still are a part of the summer training. You have the option of signing up and supporting the remote camps and being a part of the mid-year conference. You will have advisees, so you'll have half the amount, so between 6 to 8. You will still be able to travel around different parts of Taiwan. Yeah, you'll still have reports that you read, still doing observations and consultations. But like I mentioned earlier, you will be doing it at the K through 9 level, but also at the university level. I will share just a very brief story. As an EMI advisor, I will say my favorite thing about this position is this kind of observation consultation mechanism. I think on the university level, it's very powerful to kind of give a space for the teachers to reflect on their teaching, especially university professors. And in my notes, I wrote down some comments that I wanted to highlight that really stood out to me. But to be a part of a professor's reasoning and why they do what they do, for me, is very fulfilling because they've never thought about maybe some of the things they've done before, or they've never had the space to vocalize what they do. And I feel it's really important for us as advisors to kind of give them that space to reason a little bit with the decisions that they make in their classroom. So a couple lines from professors I've heard from recently, saying things like, oh, I didn't know like that was an option for me to do in the classroom, or saying other sentiments like, now I understand why I need to maybe adapt my style of teaching. And this is coming from a professor who would traditionally lecture for 3 hours in Chinese. And maybe, that could work in that context. But now lecturing 3 hours in English is a big challenge for many people. And so again, just being a part of the reasoning for maybe why they do what they do, what other options are available, is for me a very rewarding part of this role. Okay, so you've heard a lot of information from today. So I want to end with sharing the recruitment timeline. So as you can see here, our application is already open, and it will be open until February 28th, which is when the application deadline is due for this upcoming cycle. And as you can see here, your application will be reviewed. You'll have interviews in March or April, and then finally by April, you should be receiving your decision. All right, and so thank you for listening up until this point. I'll hand it back over to our host, and we'll kind of move into a Q&A now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Right now, it's our Q&A section. If you have any question about no matter it's ETF program or advisor program, feel free to turn on your microphone and then ask, or you can also type in the chat box. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I really appreciate learning all the new things. I realized my camera's not on. I just had a quick question. If I applied for ETA position, can I still apply for ETF? And I'm sorry if I missed that in the presentation. And then a follow-up question to that is, how do you suggest differentiating the ETF application from the ETA application?
For for your question, I think Kevin could help to answer.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Kavi. I'm one of the technical advisors from Fulbright Taiwan, and I just wanted to share, respond to Rachel's question about whether you can apply for the ETF and ETF grant at the same time. I think the answer is yes, because this one is from Fulbright grant, so you can, because it takes a long time. So probably you already applied for that, right? And for our ETF, because it's go through the rate going through our program. So we only, evaluate your applications. Our deadline will be February 28th. So you still have time to apply for that. So you can do both. And you will need to decide which one you want to go to because they will have different kind of like a benefit, like for the stipend differences. And so also for your second question, I think it's kind of related to this one. Like our for ETF, as you could see that we expect you have like a higher motivation to teach. I mean, for ETA, most of people will think, oh, it's like a more cultural exchanges through education, right? So you will kind of teach and a lot of people will help you. But for ETF, we hope that you have more like a passion and also you want to teach, you want to support the community in education. And we expect in your application, you will write more about your teaching ideas and what else you can do to help the students to learn English. So that's our expectation and also the tips for you to write in your ETF applications.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I think we have a couple questions from the chat box. For the first one, Daisy asked, does non-competitive eligible attend a year after ETF grant? For this questions, I think it's yes, but you have to reapply it. Because every year we just every grant we finish it's the duration is 11 months. So after you finish that, you have to like reapply it again. And for Deborah,
I think
are
Alexis wanted to answer some of the
oh
questions.
I think I want to clarify Daisy's question because if you are a Fulbright ETA, then it's through like the US Department of State program. So when you go back to the US, you qualify for 1 year of non-competitive eligibility in government positions. But if you decide to stay as an ETF for your, like you renew it and you're an ETF, that is your 1 year of non-competitive eligibility. So you will not get that in FSC, or like you cannot return to the US after being an ETF after the ETA and get your non-competitive eligibility. So it's either you are an ETA and you return to the US and you have your 1 year of non-competitive eligibility for government positions, or you're an ETA and you stay as an ETF for the second year. And during that year, that's when your non-competitive eligibility will expire because you're not working in a government position for the US.
okay, thank you, Alexis.
Yeah, I would like to answer the question about the online interview for the ETF. It will be held over Zoom, that's correct. And if you are not eligible, you can inform us in advance. We can make exceptional arrangement for the online interview. Yeah, and I think the application content already include in the slides that Alexis and also Elena mentioned about, so you can go back and review those contents. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And also for Jenny's question, I believe Kelly also answered you in the chat box. Any other questions? Well, if no, let's move to next part. So Here is our website and our email. Feel free to email us if you have any questions. And also you can check the website. That's our official website to apply your, no matter it's ETF program or advisor program. And then we will have a online feedback survey for you to help us to improve our program. So if you have anything you wanted to share to us or any suggestion to us, feel free to fill in the survey. Okay, so I think that's today's section. Thank you everybody for your participating, and yeah, just happy holidays. If you have any questions, just feel free to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.